Now we're getting ready to go into chapter 5. And I said to you, they should have put 5 first and then put 4. Here's why. You'll understand this. This is the book of the generation. This is chapter 5, Genesis chapter 5. This is the book of the generations of Adam. And in the day God created man, in the likeness of God made he him. Male and female created them. He created them and blessed them and called their name Adam in the day that they were created. And Adam lived 130 years when he had a son. He was 130 years old. And after his image. Okay. And by the way, he's going to call his name Seth. He was 130 years old when he had Seth. It doesn't even say Cain. He doesn't even mention Cain here. Or Abel. But he doesn't mention Cain at all. Okay. He's, because of that sin and because of what he did, his name's not even mentioned here. And Adam lived 130 years and begat a son in his own likeness and after his image, and called his name Seth. And Adam, and in the days of Adam after he began Seth were 800 years, and he begat sons and daughters. Now here they come. Here come the families. Here come the people. And all the days of Adam, all the days that he lived, were 930 years. Then he died. Seth, on the other hand, lived 105 years when he had Enos. And Seth lived after Enos 807 years. 807 years. And he begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Seth were 912 years. And he died. And Enos lived 90 years. And he begat Canaan. And Enos lived, after he begat Canaan, 150 years. When he was 150 years old when he had Canaan. And he begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Enos were 905 years. And he died. And Canaan lived 70 years. And it goes right down and it's going down through the families. See? This is the part where a lot of people say, well, I don't want to get the Bible talking about this person begat that person begat that person, on the one hand. On the other hand, I tell people, you don't believe in the Bible? You think the Bible's fables and all that? It's because you don't like the begats. Because your dad had a dad, and his 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 dad had a dad. And if we keep going through this, next thing you know, I'm in biblical days. Okay? All right. So, all right. And so it just goes into all the different families, and it's heading this way. And what it's doing is heading this way towards Noah. You know what I mean? Here's a very important one I think you should know. All right, let's see. We're talking about Noah's families, because again, this is all of these begats here. These have nothing to do with Cain's side, the killer, the murderer. This is all from Seth's side, and it's coming all the way down, coming down through the families on Seth's side, heading towards Noah. Jared, after Enoch, had 800 years, and you know what I mean? After Jared, you know what I mean? He had Methuselah. Methuselah had Lamech. Okay? Noah's dad. He kind of went back a little bit and starts getting names, because a minute ago, Lamech was talking to his 2 wives. So he went back, and then on into chapter 5, it goes back and starts giving you the names to head right back up to Lamech again. Okay? Lamech was 802 years old when he begat and Lamech lived 182 years old when he begat a son, Noah. Okay? This same shall comfort us concerning our work and toils of our land, because of the ground which Lord had cursed. Oh yeah. Okay. Lamech lived, after he began Noah, 595 years and begot sons and daughters. And in the end, Lamech lived 770 years, 777 years, and he died. Noah was 500 years old. No, Noah was 500 years old. And was he? I didn't realize that. Noah was 500 years old, and he had sons. Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Okay, I didn't realize that. Okay. All right. And then, of course, that's the end of chapter 5. And then, of course, we get into chapter 6. Okay. Now, chapter 6, of course, we know that's where the big issue with the Nephilim and all that is. And I just, that foolish idea called the Nephilim or whatever it is, because they stole somebody somewhere in churches years ago, stole some words out of, or took some words out of chapter 6 and didn't understand what they meant. And then they all of a sudden decided to come up with their own story about these giants who had sex with these women on earth and had children with those women, and the children grew up to be giants called the Nephilim. They all got it from chapter 6. Foolish. So get that foolishness out of here. Now let's just deal with chapter 6 in the Holy Bible the way it's supposed to be. It says, "And it came to pass when man began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. The Lord said to them, My spirit shall not always strive with men, for that thou art also flesh, and his days shall be 120 years. Here's a perfect part of that, of those bad translations I was telling you about earlier. Here's one of them right here. It says here, "And the Lord says, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for he is also flesh, and yet his days shall be 120 years. I don't know how many Bibles I've read, and it said, same thing, watch this. "And the Lord said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for I am spirit, and that he is flesh." But they took that part out. I am spirit. They took it out. It says, "The Lord said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for he is also flesh." Notice he said also. He is also flesh. Because they took out the first part of it. "For I am spirit." They took that out. Anyway, be careful of these new translations. "Yet his day shall be 120 years old." There were giants in the earth in those days. And also after that, I laugh because you know if you look at my Nephilim foolishness, you'll see what they did. There's where they try to make the words messed up to make the Nephilim thing work. "When the sons of God came unto the daughters of men, and they bare children unto them, those same men, young men, who grew up and became mighty men, men which were of old, men of renown," not men of old who turn into giants. Okay. "And then God saw the wickedness of man, that it was great on the earth, and that every imagination and thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And he repented the Lord that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him in his heart." It's hard to read that. "And the Lord said, I will destroy man who I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast and creepy thing and the fowls of the air, for it repenteth me that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord." And then it goes off into these are the generations of Noah. Noah was just a man. Noah was a just man and perfect in his generations. And Noah walked with God. So in other words, all the evil that happened just a couple of chapters from Genesis 3, from Satan opening the door to death, and all the harm and murders and rape and all these things that happened between then and just 3 little chapters later, You know what I mean? Of course, our Father says he repented that he was sorry that he made man. Okay, but Noah, our Father's so wonderful. Noah found grace in the Lord's sight, and then now he's going to go ahead and give Noah. He said, okay, Noah, it's going to get, it's going to get wet. But let me read on. And then it goes into the stories of Noah, his sons. Noah was a just man and perfect in his generation. So in other words, while all this evil was going on, Noah was still worshiping the God of Abraham. Noah was still worshiping and talking to the Lord and having some kind of relationship with the God of Abraham. Okay? All right. And Noah, he was a just man and perfect in his generations, and Noah walked with God. Noah begat 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The earth was also corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. Woo. Mm-hmm. From him creating, this is just a couple of generations back when he first had Adam and Eve. Now the whole world, everybody killing each other, raping each other, doing all kinds of horrible stuff. And God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt. And all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. And God said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through men. And behold, I will destroy them with the earth. So make thee an ark of gopher wood. Room shall thou make in the ark, and shall pitch it within and without, and pitch it without. And this is the fashion which thou shalt make it. The length of in other words, he just gives him the measurements and all the things of how to make this large, gigantic ark. Okay? Okay? They give him all the measurements and all that. And I don't think I need to do all that. You can just simply read it or whatever. It's just basically the measurements for the ark itself. And the wonderful little weird things about it. Like, for example, built it with gopher wood. You know, gophers going to build their little layers and things out there on the water. You know what I mean? So it's going to be a lot of water. So you use gopher wood. So little things like that. You go get a male and female of every creature and bring it to the ark. You know what I mean? And he has certain food for him and his family. It was Noah, Shem, Japheth, and Ham, and their 4 wives. So you have certain foods just for them. Then you have certain foods for all of the various animals. And another thing, it doesn't say it here in the Bible, but common sense, you would think that 9 chances out of 10, I wonder if Noah, when he got the animals, he made sure he got like cubs, like lion cubs, bear cubs, all small things, because he didn't know how long he was going to be in the ark. You know, he didn't know. You know, so you get small things so that, they'll have time to grow and whatever. You know what I mean? All right. So Noah did all of these things according to all that God commanded him. So he did. Okay? All right. In chapter 7, and the Lord said unto Noah, come thou and all thy house into the ark, for I have seen the righteousness, for thee have I seen righteous before me in this generation. Okay? Okay? And he told him to get all the different animals, male and female, one of each, okay? Noah was 600 years old when the flood's waters came to the earth. Now. Oh, yeah. Okay, so now, it says here, for yet 7 days, and I will cause it to rain upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights, and every living substance that I have made will I destroy them off the face of the earth. And Noah did according to all that the Lord commanded him. And Noah was 600 years old when the flood's waters came. So it never says here that the people were outside watching Noah and living and doing all kinds of stuff around him. It says nothing about that. Okay. So I proposed a question earlier about that earlier on about, people embellishing and saying all these weird things and pastors having all these stories about Noah and these people while he was building the ark. All these people were doing all these crazy weird things and they were betting and watching him and they thought he was weird. And he was like, even a movie that came out, they try to show that because of the pastor's so-called fables and stories that people were doing all these weird things around Noah while they were building the ark. And that's not true at all. The only time that, again, is only when Jesus in the New Testament said that Noah and them, they were building the ark while people were marrying and living on. And that's what he was trying to say. People were just living on doing what they were doing while Noah was building the ark. But he also said this for a reason, which I'm going to say in here in a minute. Okay. So now, so it's taken him a long time to get this ark going. Okay. And okay. Yeah. All right. So now I'm going to start telling you some of the things that happened. Okay. Then, so they're building. Now they get down to the point where it's time for it's taking them years to build this thing. Because you figure they didn't have tools. They didn't have wrenches and saws and different things that we know about. So building this thing was quite an undertaking. But the Lord showed him how to do it, what to do, what kind of materials to use, and he got busy. Him, his three sons, the four of them, and the four wives. Okay, and they were busy. They were busy building it. Okay, and then they were getting to the point now where years have passed and this thing is almost finished. And now the door, they got to the point where it's now finished. Now they need to put the door on. And as they're putting the door on, the clouds are freaking out. The clouds got some stuff going on. Okay? And surely enough, it's like, here we go. What's up with that? You know what I mean? And as they tacked that door on and got that door on, here comes the first raindrop. Coming down. Blam. Blam. And next thing you know, the rain started. You figure that first, all day it's raining. Now that must have been trippy because let's go back to the people in the midst of all of this. You're building this big gigantic ark. Even if there is a flood, how are you going to get this big ark out to the Mediterranean? Or you're in the Mediterranean Sea. Or maybe the Euphrates Sea, whatever one was closest to them. How are you going to get this ark all the way out there? Because they weren't realizing, looking at this is a flood that's going to destroy the world. The people outside weren't thinking that way. You know what I mean? They weren't thinking like that. Okay? Anyway, so first day, all day, into all night, it's raining. Thunder and lightning. 2-3 days later, it's still raining. Before you know it, people are starting to lose their dwellings because you got to figure everything that in those days, everything was made out of wood. Wood or dirt or canvas or, whatever bricks and rocks that they can come up with. They didn't have all the materials that we have today. So when that kind of water, and you're not talking about just rain and floods from the precipitation of our system, our weather pattern, weather systems. We're talking about God's vengeance. So that water was massive. That rain was massive. And surely enough, now you're losing your whole, that whole area over there where people were living over there in various dwelling, were dwelling in those areas over there. All that's now going down. All over here going down. Everything's going down. And these waters are going straight down, all heading back out to the sea or whatever. And it must have been horrible. And then everybody went running to the ark. Everybody went running to the ark. After 2 weeks or so, people lost their families. All your little children, people who were left behind, they went running to the ark. And they're hammering and banging on the door to the ark for Noah to open it. Now that realization sets in. This is the same realization that you're going to have when that horror comes. Or when that horror comes, most people are going to have the same realization. And they went running to the ark. And Jesus said, I said that Jesus said in the New Testament about Noah and the ark. The reason why he was talking about it was because he was trying to make the same point. The day's going to come when you people out here, you're going to do the same thing they did in Noah's day. They're going to go run into the ark. It's going to be the gates of heaven. And when the horror comes and judgment, after judgment and all that, you're going to come running, trying to run to get to heaven. And you won't be able to. The door will be closed. Noah's door is closed. Now look at the other side of that. Here they are banging on the door. We know what would have happened had Noah opened the door. What's going on? And try to open that door. We know what was going to happen. They'd have broke the door down, bust in, and try to, at some point, probably try to kill Noah and his family so that they could be in that ark. To try to, animals would have flew out or got out. You know what I mean? We even know what would have happened had they opened up that door, but that was the first reason why Noah didn't open the door. The other reason why Noah didn't open the door, because the Lord told him to make that door so thick. Once it was closed, it ain't opening until Noah opens it from the inside when the rain stops. But mankind has gotten so bad that they would have done exactly that. They'd have knocked that door open, and next thing you know, there you go. But that world was now over. And before you know it, it must have been trippy. All of a sudden, the whole ark raised up off the ground. That's how much water was going on. And now there's nobody outside knocking on the door. And it says here that, and the waters prevailed and increased greatly upon the earth. And the ark went upon the face of the waters, and the waters prevailed exceedingly upon the earth. And all the hills and all under the whole heaven were covered. Yeah, your dinosaurs and everything else was killed here. Okay, it wasn't like some big, meteor or something came down and some great light or meteor killed the dinosaurs, whatever. The flood, Noah's flood, the flood of Noah's time that God made on this earth because of evil and wickedness, destroyed it all.